Okay, the setup seems to be working. Hi, this is my first real attempt at streaming something. You don't need to see the Twitters. Today I'm doing a redesign for my portfolio site. And I want to make everything a bit more airy, give everything a bit more space, make everything a bit lighter and brighter. And I'm going to start with 2 areas today. I want to redo everything basically, but I'll take it step by step. It's in this redesign more an evolution rather than a revolution. So I'm taking what I have and I'm making small adjustments to it rather than redoing absolutely everything. For my first trick, I am going to redo how I show the newsletter teaser here. I do blog posts, I do newsletters, I do projects on this site. And today I will take what I have in this is my browser up here in the top left. I will take what I have for the previews for each of the newsletter issues, and I will update them to look like what we have here in the bottom. Everything in this project uses Tailwind CSS. So what you see on the right here, that is one of these newsletter teaser components, I call them. This is newsletter teaser.js. And there are a few differences between them, but they are mostly minor. For example, originally right now, I'm showing the issue number with each newsletter. So this was issue number 89, this was issue number 87. I don't really need that anymore because later I will merge my blog posts and my newsletters together. So I only have one, as you see here, one writing section. For now, I will just take the number out. I will increase the font sizes of everything. I'll put some more margin between the elements vertically. Tags on the newsletters I don't really have yet, so those I will probably add later. And then this new read full article link at the bottom here. Jumping into the code, that means that the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to remove this issue number here. You can see I had this strong tag with the issue in it, number issue. So that I will no longer need. I will just remove that entirely, and because I'm not using the issue number anything else, I'm destructuring it up here, I can take it out. I don't want that in there anymore. Now looking at everything else, it seems similar, but if we look at it in Sketch in more detail, let me jump to this component itself. This is the component that I reuse across this mockup that I have. And I can then look at the individual pieces and check out what their styles, what their colors, what their font sizes are. I have an appearance here that I set up based on the Tailwind sizes. And I can see that the date that I have is text SM. It's 14 pixels. So instead of text XS, I'm going to text SM. And the color is gray 500. I have that here, text gray 500 already. Dark mode I haven't really looked at yet, so I'm going to keep it at text gray 400. The margin bottom, so the space between these two elements, that will be 8 pixels. And right now I have MB, so margin bottom 0.5, which is 2 pixels. That's less than 8. And in the Tailwind default sizing, that'd be MB2. And it updated already, it updated live. There's some space between these two here, but it still looks a bit cluttered down here. Let's look at the headline, at the title next. This has a text size of text LG, which is one step up, right? It's XS, it's SM. Is it then base, then MD, then LG? So it's a few steps at least one step larger than it is right now. Also looks a lot more heavy than this one, because the font size I see in my text settings in Sketch here is text, I always forget, is it text medium or is it font medium? I'm going to go with font medium probably, and when I write Tailwind CSS, I like to keep them sorted alphabetically, so font, the F in font comes before the L in leading. It looks okay. That text color is off. So here it's the default blue that I think for the links is set to blue 600. And we are going to change that to gray 900 because the text color is set on the link itself. have to go to class name and go to text gray 900, saving that, and while it tells me it compiled successfully, it doesn't take. Even reloading doesn't do anything, because links also have a visited style set on them. Every visited link also gets a text color of, by default on my site, blue 600, so I need to change that to go for text gray 900 as well. And that should update. Yep, okay, there it is, text gray 900, that's the black I have here, or the dark shade of gray I have here. Between these two elements, between the tag title and the excerpt, I also have 8 pixels, so MB1 becomes MB2. The leading is set to snug right now. I'm not sure if I changed it from the default here, so I'd have to check what the default what the default line height for text LG is. So let's jump into the Tailwind documentation. Text LG has a line height of 1.75. 1.75 times 16 default would be 28, and I have 24 here. So it's not the default that is in Tailwind. I might as well take it out. I'm not sure if those 2 extra pixels at the top and 2 at the bottom really make a difference. And I also have because I have some default styling on all headings, I have a margin 0 in here that I'm going to keep. We can see there's already some space between them, but the text now is tiny. So let's look at the excerpt. That is text base instead of text SM. So let's go text base, and the color is gray 500. Yep, text gray 500. Base text gray 500. We see in this little corner here, it's reloading, and there we have some lighter gray on the text. The labels I wanted to have here, as I said, I don't have on the newsletter issues right now. So all I'm going to add is this read full article link below the excerpt, a href, and because that's the same link as I have when you click on the title, that is permalink, the property permalink. And the text is always read full article. I don't need to put the title of the issue in here, right? I could put it as a title of the link tag for SEO purposes. I'm gonna check later if that would make sense. But we have here read full article. There's some space that if I had tags here, I would have some space between them as well. So while this paragraph currently has no margin, let's give it a margin bottom of 2 pixels as well. The text color is by default is my blue 600. I'm going to assume this is, oh, where are you at? Blue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600, yes. But because I'm thinking I want to remove the default styling, let's be explicit here. Let's go class name on the link text blue 600, and because we know we have styles on the visited links as well, text blue 600 there also. Looking at it a bit more, we have font size medium, font weight medium. So let's go font medium, not medium, medium. And that looks like what I'm looking for. 2 things I'm noticing is that when I have a margin, I basically have a margin bottom on this first element, I have a margin bottom on the heading, a margin bottom on the paragraph. Instead of putting in the same margin bottom on each of them, let's take it out, and the MB2 here as well, and instead on their parent container, let's go class name space y2, which does the same. It sets a selector on all the child elements, and I think it sets a margin top. Let's look. I think it sets a margin top on each of the children. Let's inspect that. Let's put you over here. Can't do. Okay. So if I now inspect the heading, yeah, see, I get this orange line here means I get a margin top on the heading. I don't get one on this first element. I get the orange margin on the paragraph tag, but not on my link. Yeah, there is no space between the link and the, yeah, we see it here. No space between the link and the excerpt, because a link by default is an inline element, and we can put as many margins as we want on inline elements. Those won't take, because this can take the entire width. Let's say it's an inline block element. So this sets inline display inline block on this element. And now I want this to jump down a little once this is done reloading. What's happening? Yep, it jumped these 8 pixels, which is neat. Now there is some more difference between, now while each individual component, each article or each issue now looks the way I want it to, it's still a bit close together, right? You can tell that these are supposed to be separated because there is some space between them, but not enough. And in my design update, I want to put a lot more margin between elements. If I look at this newsletter issue and this one, I see I have 80 pixels between them. I don't want the newsletter teaser itself to have a margin. I want to put that in a grid, one level up. And I'm here on the newsletter archive page. So let's go to newsletter, the archive page. And here where I use the newsletter teasers, I map over all the newsletters that I have, and I print a newsletter teaser for each of them. I render, not I print. And this parent, they are in the parent component that has a grid. That is a grid, has a grid style, just one column. Let's try that. I could put them in 2 columns. That might even work. That might work, but I'll do that. I'll worry about that later. Let's keep them in 1 column. But the grid gap between them right now is 12 Tailwind units, which is 1 Tailwind unit is 4 pixels. If I want to have 80, that would make this a 20. But I'm not seeing that. Let's reload the page. Yep, and that's it. I have 80 pixels between them now. Let's confirm by inspecting that. But I think I have to, how can I see that? I think I have to inspect the grid. And gap 5 rem, and a rem is 16. Because Tailwind doesn't change that by default. It keeps the default font size. It doesn't do the 62.5% trick where it turns a rem into 10 pixels. A rem in Tailwind is 16 pixels. So my 5 rem gap here is the 80 pixel grid, 80 pixel gap that I'm looking for. And with that, this one is fine. I have more lists of these newsletter issues somewhere else. So if we go to one of the articles, one of the issues, I have a list of I can remove that, close that. I have a list of related issues at the bottom, and here we still have them at the 12 unit gap. This is the newsletter slug page. We can see where it says, yeah, gap here. We still have 12. Let's go to 20. I don't know why it doesn't reload it doesn't re-render it when I change the gap, but if I reload the page, then there's more space here. This read all issues is kind of stuck more towards the bottom issue here. I don't know what to do with that yet. I'll keep that as is. This is where the margin bottom 8 comes in. Let's not worry about that today. And I also have on the newsletter page itself, on the newsletter page, which is newsletter index.js for me, I have the latest issues. We still have the same 12 unit gap here. So let's look for a gap from 12 to 20. It is doing something, but for some reason it doesn't show me when it's picked up the new gap property. Okay, that's more airy now. I have the same problem with this read all issues. It's smaller, I think, even, or at least it isn't medium weight as this one, but that is, I can live with that for now. On the homepage, I used to have previous newsletter issues as well, but those only appear in these little boxes here that we're going to look at next. I no longer have a section with latest newsletter issues. So I think that's it. Let's look at the newsletter teaser component again. Space wide text. I'm not going to check the dark mode even now. I'm going to leave that as is. The margin 0 here is fine. Probably going to need the margin 0 on here. Cool. I'm perfectly happy with that. Oh, and I'm on the main branch. So let's quickly go to a new branch. Git checkout -b. Let's say Tailwind updates. It's not. That's a terrible name. But let's see. I updated these 4 pages. Quick git diff. Wait, I had to have a shortcut. So git diff gives me exactly the lines that changed. I only have the gap here. These were all the grids. I removed the issue. Haven't really taken much else out. Added the read full article. And I don't have an arrow on here that I miss. Okay, so git add dot, git commit, and update newsletter teaser. Give everything some more space. And quit. Cool. So on to while we're here, on to this this milestone log. This is where I'm showing some of the recent things that I did, and I'm doing a bad job because I haven't updated it in a month. I have done things since May 19th, just haven't updated the site as well. And this one is called, what is that called? The component. Now, the problem is that I don't have, using Tailwind, I can't look at a class name here and figure out what the component is. If I use something like BEM, I could see that this is a milestone log entry title, for example, but here I don't see that. So let's check the pages index page, and I think it was something like milestone. I have something called milestones here, so I guess I have a, it's been a while since I looked at this. So milestones.js is an API function and a component. So let's look at the component. Okay, everything says milestones in here. I have a gap 12 again. That's the same gap that we had on the newsletter. So I'm guessing that I want to change those in a bit as well. And then I have a milestone component. Let's start with that. Components milestone. And let's look at it. What do I want it to look like when I'm done with it? Let's remove this. Come on. And zoom in. It's zooming in on the entire thing because that's its own component. Okay. Here, this is what I want it to look like. So instead of this being round, I will make it a bit more square. Well, I will make it square with rounded corners. Let's start with that because that's the first thing that appears in this component. I have an icon here with a size H6W6, which means the icon itself. I can go one, I think I can go one instance down even. Come on, where is it? That's the problem with me doing this on a teeny tiny display. That's not it. The milestone, where is the milestone entry? Where is the milestone entry? And why did this just reload? This looks like milestones. Yep, there we are. And that is an entry. Cool. So this is a placeholder icon. The icon will be 24 by 24 pixels, which if we divide that by 4 is 6. So 6 Tailwind units is the size of that, but the yellow container around it will be 48. Scroll down to where we are. Here, this is it. And 48 by 4 is 12. Okay, good thing that I checked that. And I want this to be... Okay, I didn't give it an explicit size, I only gave it a padding, which means if I have 24 in here and 28 in here, I have another 24 pixels to divide up. How does math work? That means 6 on each side. No, that's not true. That's not correct. How does math work? I have 48 minus 24, which means I have 24 on each side, on all sides, actually, which means I have 12 per side, yes. And 12 divided by the Tailwind unit of 4 is 3. So where I have a padding, okay, that was more difficult than it needed to be. Where I have a padding of 2 here, I can go to a padding of 3. And when it, I don't know why it refreshes here, then I have it at this size. Here I had it at rounded full, but I no longer want that. I want to have it at a border radius of 6 pixels. So let's check border radius in Tailwind, and 6 by 16, if we do it by rem, is 0.375, and 0.375 rem is rounded MD. So let's take it from rounded full to rounded MD. And that's looking much more like what we had here. Cool. The color of the icon was set to text gray 700. And we're still at 700. And the background color on this was set to yellow 300. That also stays the same. So we only changed the size and the shape a little. Now, next up, let's start with the space between the icon and the text on this column here, if you want. That will be 16 pixels. Gotta stay hydrated during these. And same as we had with the span, no, not with the span, with the space wide 2 before, where we always set the same vertical margin between elements. We have the same in the horizontal as well. I had set it to space x 2.5. So you can see I only had the icon here, and then I had the column with the content in here, which is everything that this one represents. And instead of space x 2.5, which 2.5 times 4 is 2.5 times 4 is 10 pixels. I don't know why it takes it this long to give me that result. No, not MD. I want to set it to 4, because 4 Tailwind units are 16 pixels, and we only won 6 pixels in the horizontal here, space between them, but already it's looking a bit cleaner. And the date, again, we always have a date, so we're moving to this column here now, where in my header, oh, in my header I have 2 things. Why do I have 2 things? Okay, so the header is both the date and the title. Don't think I really need that, right? If I put it inside of the header, maybe, but I don't really need to. I don't need to keep it in a header element, do I? What does this do? It is a flex element, a flex container with reverse column. Like, I don't think I need that. Justify between. Oh, because yeah, because this looks different on. It looked different on different breakpoints. Let's try that. Is that still true? Okay, yeah, it's sorry, it's super difficult to see here, but on a large breakpoint, I had the title on the left and the date on the right, which is why I had justify between here. But in the new design, I'm not gonna have that anymore. I am going to remove that. You can see that it changed from flex call reverse to flex row and to item sent. No, I don't know that I no longer need. I'm just going to remove that. And while I am at it, this is also, it doesn't need to be a span. Let's make this a, is it time or is it date time? Let's keep it as a span. I can look that up later. This will still look similar. Now we have different spacing here because we're going to worry about the spacing next. Why did I jump here? What happened here? This is where I wanted to go. Between the date, no, let's look at the date first. The date right now is a span. That isn't the most semantic element, as I said. We'll fix that later, or I'll fix that when I figure out if that is a space or not a space, if that is a time or a date time element. And let's go to text SM here. The text is, I don't know why this refreshes to the top of the page. And the text color is gray 500. That one I can keep. And the line height I'm going to assume is the same. Space between label, and I don't really need to. Okay. Sorry, the doorbell just rang. I have to be back in a second. Sorry, that was nothing. Where was I? Okay, yeah, I want to check if the space is the same as it was with the newsletter issues. If I look at these, they all have the same space between them again, which is the kind of consistency that I'm looking for here, really. But there is some more space between this description and this embed. So sometimes when I have a newsletter that I'm referring to or a project, then I'm going to put this card in here. Sometimes they don't have that. So I'm probably going to put the margin on this element. That means that, okay, let's put a div around here because we can never have enough divs. And close the div. I know that I have vertical spacers. I have vertical space of 8 pixels between them. So that is class name space y and 2, same as in the newsletter issue, which is good. That is what I want, to have this be more recognizable and more similar across all elements here. The date we had, let's look at so that means I don't need to put a margin on here. The heading is an H3 again, and same text LG. Good. Yeah, and I hope that is medium. Yes, so font medium. That is excellent because that means it's the same as it is in the newsletter issues. It's this recognizability that I'm looking for. That will have some space here. The leading again, not sure. I will just, what did I do with the newsletter? Newsletter teaser. What did I do? I had removed it. So let's remove it here as well. Let's keep it as is. I probably changed it intentionally in the mockup. Let's see later if it needs that really. And the description is no longer text SM, that's text base. And let's be explicit with the color and set the color to text gray 500. Sweet, that looks almost identical to what we had on the newsletters. What is this then? Okay. Because sometimes I show different things when I'm linking to a newsletter and a project. Is that necessary? Will be necessary because one will say read full article, one will say read, I think, case study is what I'm going to call it. So let's start with the newsletter first because I definitely have more of those embedded here. I'm linking to a card. Now, no, I'm not linking to a card. I'm using a card here. First, let's see, the space between those is 18 pixels. I have already set on the card a margin top of 3. 18, is 18 a Tailwind unit? 18, does it have 4.5? Let's check out margin. I think 4.5. No, 4.5 does not exist. It has 3.5 and 5. Let's do 4, right? So between this and this, because we have 16 in this horizontal, let's do 16 in the vertical as well, and let's give it margin top of 4. I'm gonna have to update the sketch. I'm not gonna change everything in Sketch because that would take forever. And that gives us nothing yet. Why? I can't change it on the project. Let's change it on the newsletter here. The card. The card I am currently using a lot on this site. If we go to the blog, all of my articles are in cards. If we go to the projects, all of the projects are in cards as well. But I am going to remove them eventually. Part of this redesign is me taking out the cards, and they will only appear in very, very few instances. One of them is here. If I now change the styling of the card in general, then all of them will automatically be updated. Which, I mean, this will be half broken for a while anyways, which is fine. That's what I want to say. And let's look. Okay, this is a component itself in Sketch. Let's check out here. I said shadow SM on it. So instead of shadow MD, no, let's do shadow SM. And where it says rounded, I have it rounded to 4 pixels. Rounded corners of 4, which is 1 Tailwind unit. Oh no, this does it in rems. So 4 by 16 is 0.25 rem, which is rounded. Instead of rounded MD, it will be the much less rounded, right? I'm going from, what is 3.75? 0.375 times 16. I'm going from 6 pixels down to 4 pixels. The difference will not be huge. And this seems to be the wrong shadow. Did this not update? Huh. Why? What's happening? Does this look the same? Shadow SM, shadow MD. This doesn't really appear softer. I'm confused. No, this looks unchanged. What's happening? Okay, let's look at the log. Is everything okay here? Then let's inspect it. I want to at least see the new border radius on the card. This still has rounded MD and shadow MD on it. What? This is the only card component I have. No, it's not. Okay. I see. So I am using my own Tailwind React library here, which is outside of the control of this. Okay. Let's go change. If I change, okay. What I have is yield UI. It's another project where I want to take the components that I use a lot in my projects and I make them available, right? It's nothing but some HTML with some CSS classes, Tailwind classes on them that you can use. If you want this element with this label, you know, go ahead, take all this and you get this exact thing, which is cool. But card is its own component on here, and that is hard-coded to rounded MD and shadow MD. What's the best thing I can do here now? I will keep that as is. No, I will have to change it. Damn it. Projects and yield UI. Change it in the packages. So I have a card here somewhere. Card. I'll take the rounded out and shadow MD becomes shadow SM. Go to the package JSON. No, that's the app. Package JSON here. Update that to version 009. Commit everything as reduce border radius on card, border radius and shadow on card. And I only have a few more minutes before I need to go prepare lunch. Git push origin main, and this will already build it. And no, that won't publish it. npm run publish. npm publish. How do I publish this thing? No, okay. I have not looked at this in so long. In here, npm publish probably. Yeah, that's doing something, and it's compiling my version 009 and updating to npm. Sweet. So in my project that uses it, I can go to the package.json, go to yield UI, give me version 9. I have to stop the server anyways because I'm installing a new dependency, npm install. That's usually a step you don't need to take. That's a step that I'm just taking because I'm making life difficult for myself in this. I want to reuse these components a bunch. npm run dev, which means that I don't want to recreate a card over and over again, which is odd though that I still have it. Which means that the source component card I no longer need. Let's trash source components card because I should not use that. I should only use the one from my component library. From my Tailwind component library. It's compiled successfully. Is it running again? Let's see. Makes sense that the change that I made never took because that's not where the code for it lived. Build page 404. I just broke everything. It still looks unchanged to me. It still looks absolutely unchanged to me. Okay, let's trash the node modules and npm install. This did not give, but while this is happening, we can continue. We won't see the changes yet, but description we have done. Card we are in here, and this was its own component. In this embed for the newsletter, we had, let's see, 15 pixels on the. Why 15? Why would I do 15 by 16? That's not a space that I have in Tailwind. So this is supposed to be 16. That's fine. Which is a px padding horizontal of 4 by 4 of 16 pixels. The text is text not sm, is text base. mb, let's see if I need that. Space between all of them is 2. 8. So yeah, p and space, what's happening? Space y of 2. Again, the more I reuse these classes, the better it is because that means I have them more recognizable. The text is in gray 900 again. So the link here, we had that before. Class name, text gray 900 and visited. Text gray also 900, and font is not bold but medium because we had that at medium as well. Text space, I'm not setting a leading. I'll have to find out how that is pronounced. But text medium, and this my npm run dev. My dependencies are installed. Description. Now, this before this newsletter issue 89 here, that was text LG, was text large. Because this is now embedded, it won't be text large. It will be text medium. I'm taking everything down a notch, which means the description, while the excerpt here is text base, in here it will be text SM. It was at text SM, and the text color is gray 500. So text gray 500. I also have this link to the permalink. I don't know why it keeps jumping to the top. href, and it says read full article. href goes to the newsletter.permalink. And this needs a class name on it. I have text blue 600 and visited text blue 600 as well. The text size is SM. So let's go text here, text SM, and because this will need to have a margin applied to it, this is inline block. Still feel like this is the wrong shadow. What did I do? Or what didn't I do, rather? Because this is still rounded MD and shadow MD. Okay, I'll have to check out what I missed doing in the component library. But this is supposed to look like the other one now. And I'm gonna do two last things. One is that the space between those needs to be larger. If we look at this, and oh, damn it, now everything resized. Kind of like here and here. This is not exact. This is because I didn't resize it correctly in Sketch just now, but I have a space between those elements of 78. I probably meant 80, right? To be consistent with the other one that we had before. Let's do 80, which I had in the milestones, plural now, milestones component. We see we have a grid with a gap of 12, make that 20. And this line here is a bit of trickery. It's not part of the component itself. So each of these with the icon and the title and description, they have their own, they don't have that line on them, but the parent that has them. I trick that in here with a absolute position. So the container is relatively positioned, which means I can position that on the right from the left of this component. I change the padding on the icon from 2 to 3. So I have to move it over by another 1 unit, which means my left isn't 5, but it's 6. Now it's centered here again, and top goes from 12 to, let's try 16. That was probably too much. No, I want the line to be closer to this, right? Zoom in. So this line here. This line I want to be at 8. I want to have 8 pixels space between, again, the 8 pixels. More consistency, that is better. But that means that it has a top position of 56. And 56 divided by 4 is 14. Okay, so that was correct before. This goes to 14. And down here, because I now have to the next, I also want 8 pixels. What does that mean? How does the math work here? That is wrong. Bottom, okay, it's the other way. If I did minus bottom 0, then it would end with this card here, but because there is a space, there's a gap of 20 between them, and I want to move it down, I need to go down by, and if I want to have 8 pixels between them, which is 20, let's say that would be minus 18. I don't know if that is a value that exists in Tailwind. It doesn't seem like it is. Let's say bottom. What positions do we have? We have, let's do minus bottom. We have 0, we have 1 pixel, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, yada yada yada. 19, 10, 11, 12. There's 16, and there is 20, but there is no 18. That's unfortunate. Let's see how it looks with 20. Nope, that stabs the next element that I do not want. Now it's uneven. I'm not okay with it being uneven. If that has to be 16, then let's make this 16 as well. Instead of 8 pixels between the icon and the line, let's make it, instead of 8, let's make it 16. At least that's uniform. What doesn't look right yet is this card here. You can see this one is a lot more spacey. It has, oh, read full article, something here that I forgot. Right, because this also needs to be medium, right? Let's go to this container, this component, and exactly, font medium on here. How does the alphabet work? I think that goes to font medium here. And now read full article is medium as well. Cool. So this one is a bit more airy. I'm gonna have to double check the leading on the title. And for the card here, that's a relatively quick copy paste. I'm gonna move that over, but I'm gonna have to cut the stream here because I'm on lunch duty. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll try another session of these soon. Let me know what else you'd like to see. If I went over something too quickly or not quickly enough, put that in the comments. I'd appreciate it. And now I'm gonna try to stop the stream, which I have never done. Let's experiment with that. Oh, I saw a question before I leave that. Yes, Mario, exactly. This down here is Sketch. I can give you a quick tour. I use Sketch when I work by myself, Figma when I work with others. I have a bunch of pages here. This is ultimately what I want the result to look like. So my whole page I will redesign, and this is, okay, some things are broken here now, but this is, oh, I need to resize all of that. This is Sketch. I'm more comfortable in Sketch because I used that earlier, and I like having the native application. Figma worked really well, but transitioning between the two and jumping back and forth wasn't so super easy. They do almost exactly the same, right? I could have done exactly the same as I did here in Figma. I think one thing that I like better in Sketch is how they handled vectors and drawing these icons. I could do that in Figma as well, but the operations and how I see the layers here, that worked better for me in Sketch. But flip a coin and pick whatever you think works better for you there. Now I have to run. If you have any other questions, ping me. I'll happy to get back to you. Talk to you soon. Where's the end stream button? There it is. Let's try that.